coverage now. This is Wave News.
Let's be clear about what this was. This was an evil act of targeted violence.
This should not continue to happen. Evil should not try to prevail and take over our city, and we let it happen.
6 people are dead, including the gunman, after a mass shooting at the Old National Bank in downtown Louisville on Main Street. 8 others were hurt, 2 still in critical condition this morning, including an LMPD officer who was shot in the head. Graduated just 10 days ago. Investigators say a former bank employee used a rifle and live streamed the killings of his coworkers.
Every human life matters. And until we have a greater respect for all human life, this violence is not going to stop. We have to love and respect the human person.
Reaction is pouring in from all across the Commonwealth and beyond as the community tries to grasp what happened. Many are calling for action. 5 people were killed in that mass shooting. 63-year-old Tommy Elliott, 64-year-old Jim Tutt, 40-year-old Josh Barrick, 45-year-old Juliana Farmer. They died Monday morning. And 57-year-old Deanna Eckert died from her injuries last night. Crews have been cleaning up the scene of that shooting, picking up glass, boarding up windows, and the roads around that Preston Point building are now back open. They were closed for most of the day yesterday, and this is a big contrast to the scene on East Main Street from Monday morning. A huge police response. They rushed to that scene and they were met with gunfire. Of the 8 who were hurt, several are still in very serious condition this morning, 2 critical, including an LMPD officer. Our Wave News reporters are bringing you team coverage this morning on Sunrise. Kathleen Ninke is at the site of the shooting, breaking down how officials responded, and we'll be getting a live interview with the mayor and the police chief here shortly. But first, let's go to Olivia Russell, who's at U of L Hospital, to talk about how the victims are doing. Olivia?
Well, Shannon, we've been on the phone with LMPD overnight getting updates on their conditions, and we're told right now nothing has changed. There are still 2 people that are in critical condition fighting for their lives. One of those victims is Officer Nicholas Wilt. He was shot in the head responding to the call. Was in brain surgery for hours yesterday, but we're told, again, he's still in critical condition. He had just graduated from the academy 10 days before this shooting, too, and the interim police chief even emotional, thinking about how she just swore him in. Now, there is another person who is still fighting for their life here, but we don't know what kind of injuries that person has. 3 people were released from the hospital yesterday, and 3 more are still here with non-serious injuries. But Mayor Craig Greenberg, as you remember, was a victim of workplace violence just a year before that. He was okay, but he still had this message for those victims and their families.
I'm a survivor of a workplace shooting. To the people who survived, whether you were physically hurt or not, I know that you're hurting too. We are here for you as well. To the survivors and the families, our entire city is here to wrap our arms around you.
Now, there were a total of 3 officers injured in this. I know there was a little bit of confusion with all these reports coming in yesterday, but a total of 3 officers injured, one of those being Officer Wilt. Another officer was grazed by a bullet, and one more has an arm injury. Those other 2 are expected to be okay, though. Reporting live at U of L Hospital, Olivia Russell, Wave News.
Thank you, Olivia. And as we continue to learn more about the victims of that mass shooting, so many people have been coming together in response to what happened. Holy Trinity prayed for all of the victims and even the shooter. It is where victim Josh Barrick attended and where his kids go to school. Christ Church United Methodist also gave people a chance to light a candle and pray for the lives lost. And churches around the world just finished celebrating, as we all know, Easter Sunday. Religious and community leaders hoping faith can help many in the community.
We always think that it can never happen to us, and this breaks that sort of illusion that we're somehow sheltered from gun violence.
Love is what it's all about, and we've got to care for each other foremost, but we also have to work so that this doesn't keep happening.
And more vigils will be planned for the future. And today, police will be very busy investigating what happened, also looking into a motive here. Wave News reporter Kathleen Ninke is live near the Old National Bank in downtown. Oh, Kathleen?
Yeah, it's right behind me, Shannon, and you can notice it quite easily because of the windows boarded up right there on the front wall by the entrance into Old National Bank. So we're here on the corner of Preston and Main. I'll get out of the way so you can get a closer look at what this scene is now. And it's quiet at this hour, besides the dozen or so news crews that are out here reporting. And what we'll be reporting on in the next weeks and months is breaking down why this happened, looking into that possible motive for this shooting, and then looking at the police response. So what we know right now about the timeline is that the first calls came in at 8:30 a.m. 3 minutes later, LMPD was right there on the scene. 10:15 a.m., an hour and a half later, police reported that there was no longer an active aggressor and the suspected shooter was neutralized. 11 a.m., we got that update from the police, the mayor, the governor. Early afternoon, we know LMPD searched the shooter's home. Again, we don't yet know exactly what they found, if anything. 3 p.m., we received another update, and at that update, our fifth victim had not yet died from her injuries. That came later in the afternoon, when we now know 5 victims died in this, and then, of course, the shooter being the 6th person who died in this instance. Police shot and killed that shooter. But police are also asking why this man pulled the trigger in the first place. Here's Louisville Mayor Craig Greenberg yesterday.
Let's be clear about what this was. This was an evil act of targeted violence. This is really difficult for all of us across the entire city to process and accept. I ask that we respect the needs of the families and loved ones of the people whose lives were lost today.
And here coming up in just about half an hour, I'll be live with Mayor Greenberg and live with the interim chief of Louisville Metro Police. Do they have any updates? How are they feeling now that we are coming up on 24 hours since this tragedy in downtown Louisville happened just behind me? But for now, live in downtown Louisville, Kathleen Ninke, Wave News.
Thanks, Kathleen. And the CEO of Old National Bank releasing a statement last night. It says in part, there are no words to adequately describe the sadness and devastation that our Old National family is experiencing as we grieve the tragic loss of our team members and pray for the recovery of all those who were injured. This morning, we're also hearing from people who witnessed the shooting. They say it's something they will never forget. J.D. Worley watched it all happen in horror from his office right across the street. He says he saw LMPD officers responding, including the ones tending to Officer Nicholas Wilt after he was shot in the head. He says it's so difficult to process what he saw.
The other officers grabbed him and carried him off as he was unfortunately motionless. Never could have fathomed I would ever see something like this happen.
Others describe moments of panic, trying to get a hold of friends and family who live or work in the area where the shooting took place. Areas around East Main Street were put on lockdown as a precaution while police were clearing the scene and investigating. Now, the shooter is 25-year-old Connor Sturgeon. Investigators are digging through his background. We know he was employed at the Old National Bank, and police searched his home in the Camp Taylor neighborhood yesterday afternoon. A laptop and some other belongings were taken out of the house. Records show it was owned by Connor's friend from Alabama University. That's where he got a master's in finance. Neighbors and those who know the Sturgeon family are left stunned and with so many questions.
It's so surreal. I just can't even imagine. It's just such a happy family, such a great family, and to see this happen is a tragedy.
The father, a basketball coach at Floyd Central, or was. This tragic moment, of course, getting national attention too, and reaction from the Biden administration. It came up during a press briefing at the White House.
The President and the First Lady are praying for those killed and injured in the tragic shooting in Louisville and for the survivors who will carry the trauma for the rest of their lives. They are grateful for the LMPD officers who quickly and courageously stepped into the line of fire to save others. Once again, today, the president has called on Republicans in Congress to work together with Democrats to take action, to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines, to require safe storage of firearms, to require background checks for all gun sales, to eliminate gun manufacturers' immunity from liability.
And one of the victims of the shooting was a close friend of the governor. Bashir said Tommy Elliott helped him throughout his life, and the governor visibly emotional when talking about him.
We lost 4 children of God today, one of whom was one of my closest friends. Tommy Elliott helped me build my law career, helped me become governor, gave me advice on being a good dad. It's one of the people I talk to most in the world, and very rarely were we talking about my job. He was an incredible friend.
Elliott was a vice president at the bank. President Biden said he called the governor to talk about the attack. In a tweet, Biden said too many Americans are paying for the price of Congress's inaction on gun violence. We'll have more response from lawmakers, including Kentucky senators, as Sunrise continues. And GoFundMe is helping people donate to the bank shooting victims and their families. The website has created a hub with legitimate and verified fundraisers. You want to make sure that it's verified. You can find it under the Louisville Bank Shooting How to Help Hub section. GoFundMe's Trust and Safety team will continue to update that hub with more fundraisers as they're verified. And you can find constant live coverage on the Wave News app. And when you can't be near a TV, we do stream live online on the mobile app and all of our streaming channels, and we'll bring you updates as they happen throughout the day on this Wave News app. It is 6:09, and meteorologist Tawana Andrew has your Tuesday weather.
And for today, we are seeing plenty of sunshine coming back into our forecast. We're going to climb into the 70s for your highs. So overall, today is looking warm and sunny yet again. Now, the nice weather does last for a little while longer. I'll let you know when we can see some rain and even some 50s for highs in just a bit.
Thanks, Tawana. That mass shooting in downtown, not the only one that happened yesterday morning. Another one right near Jefferson Community and Technical College. We'll tell you details about what happened here. And a mother pleading guilty now for the murder of her child. More details on what happened ahead on Sunrise.
This is Wave News Sunrise.
Well, I think one thing that will help us as we're all trying to wrap our heads around this mass shooting is at least we'll have some nice sunshine today, Tawana.
Yeah, I think the quiet weather is certainly going to help. So if maybe you have the opportunity to spend some time outside, reflect today, the weather is certainly going to help with that as we continue to see high pressure over us. And this means some quiet weather over the next few days. So far this year, it's been very active with just storm after storm after storms, it seems like. But finally, we do have a decent stretch of some dry weather coming our way. And right now, we are seeing high pressure, of course, over us and clear skies across the region as well. With that, our temperatures on the cool side, with a lot of us sitting into the 30s and the low 40s right now. Even at the airport, we've dropped down into the 40s, now sitting at 49 degrees. And looking further into the metro, 48 downtown here at Wave News, 37 for those of you in Jeffersonville, though. Same thing in Crestwood, still holding on to 46 in Simpsonville. You're at 41 in Fairdale and 40 in Floyd's Knobs. Over the next 12 hours, here's what we're going to be looking at. Temperatures returning to the 70s for your highs. We're talking about sunshine all day long. But remember, with the dry weather, that pollen still in the air, so that is going to be an issue all the way into the end of the week and into the weekend as well. For tonight, we're turning to those 40s for lows, but a lot of us just going to be sitting in the 40s, and that is it. So we're going to continue that warming trend, not during the daytime hours, but also at night, too. We'll eventually see those temperatures returning to near 80 degrees for a high on your Thursday, and here comes the rain moving in just in time for the weekend, but the weekend does not look to be a washout in any regard. Yes, we'll see some of those scattered showers, a couple of thunderstorms showing up as we get into your Friday with an area of low pressure, or what's left of it, moving into our region. But then here comes the cold front pushing towards us as we head into your Saturday. So Saturday starts off warm and dry. In fact, seeing a high near 80 degrees on Saturday. And some of that warmth may be the fuel to additional thunderstorms that we see with the cold front moving in for Saturday night into early on your Sunday morning. We do have to keep an eye on the strength of those storms, pretty closely. Now that front will move through as we get into your Sunday morning, allowing for some cooler air to arrive into the region. But we're not looking as cool as what we were initially seeing, only seeing those highs into the 50s as we get into your Monday, and then we'll warm up pretty quickly by Tuesday of next week, back into the 60s then. And once we get towards the end of next week, we'll be seeing temperatures doing their best to return to near 80 degrees. Shannon.
Thanks, Tawana. Well, we're working this morning to learn more about a person who died after being hit by a vehicle. The Jefferson County Coroner's Office says 42-year-old Danica Underwood died at the scene after a vehicle hit her in the 3200 block of Breckenridge Lane. It happened just after midnight Monday morning. On top of what happened at the Old National Bank, LMPD had to rush off to another shooting not far away yesterday morning. A man was killed near JCTC. A man and a woman, in fact, both shot. It happened right outside a campus building on 8th and Chestnut Street about 11 a.m. Monday. The man died and the woman was taken to University Hospital. Police are still looking for the shooter or shooters.
At this time, it's still under investigation. They're trying to pull video from the school and video from surrounding areas.
And JCTC decided to close early yesterday. A Louisville mother has now pleaded guilty to the murder of her child. Catherine McKinney, the mother of Serenity McKinney, pleaded guilty Monday. Serenity was missing for months before Catherine and her boyfriend were arrested in Kansas and then extradited to Kentucky and charged. The family told us at the time that Catherine McKinney had cut off her family from seeing the child. Later, the 4-year-old's remains were found near the Bullitt and Jefferson County line. Happening today, the U.S. Department of Justice will be hosting informational meetings about the federal investigation into LMPD. That'll be going on from 11 to 1:30 today at the Shawnee Branch Library. And then later in the week, there'll be some other meetings, too. On Thursday, they'll be meeting at the Middletown Branch Library. Public forums will start on Wednesday. They'll be at South Central Regional Library from 6 to 7:30 and also Central High School from 6 to 7:30. Many Kentucky politicians and lawmakers are now speaking out after the mass shooting in Louisville. More on what they had to say.
Here's a look at the current Kentucky Lottery jackpots. The Kentucky Lottery, over $4.4 billion in grants and scholarships.
6:21 now, and many federal, state, and local leaders are responding to the mass shooting in downtown Louisville. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer called for action after the shooting on East Market Street. Schumer says in part this cannot continue, and we must keep working together for stronger gun control safety legislation in this country. Kentucky Senators Rand Paul and Mitch McConnell both posted on Twitter about the shooting. Paul said he and his wife are praying for everyone involved. They said their hearts are broken for the families of those lost. And McConnell thanked LMPD and the first responders for their bravery at the scene and said he and his wife are praying for the victims, their families, and the city of Louisville. Representative Morgan McGarvey says he wants to see action from fellow lawmakers. We spoke to him. He says he'd like to work with fellow lawmakers to pass gun control laws to prevent mass shootings in the future.
I remain optimistic, and I'm going to remain optimistic on this. In the last Congress, the 117th Congress, they passed the first gun legislation in the last 30 years. And did it get everything? No, it certainly didn't. But it's a start. And I think how we start is to have these conversations honestly, right? And part of having an honest conversation is listening honestly and listening to the steps that we can take, right, that will make our communities safer while preserving rights.
Louisville Archbishop Shelton Faub also responding, saying, "My heart is heavy as we learn about another mass shooting now in our own Louisville community. Even with our Easter hope so recently renewed, we've been quickly reminded that we still live in the shadow of the cross of senseless violence. For now, please join with me in praying for those who have died and for those who have been injured and for their families. Let us also pray for all in our community as we deal with this tragedy." Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear ordering all flags be lowered to half staff until Friday night in honor of the victims of the violence. The governor said in a statement, Louisville and the entire Commonwealth are mourning and calls on everyone to share their love and support. At 6:23, here's Tawana taking a look at the next 10 days.
And over the next 10 days, here's what we're going to be looking at for today. Plenty of sunshine, highs into the mid to upper 70s. Seeing much more of the same, just a few degrees warmer for your Wednesday. And then we keep that warming trend into Thursday with those highs near 80. Now, once we get into Friday, still some 70s around, but we'll also have to watch for some showers and thunderstorms scattered as we get into the afternoon and evening, it looks like. Saturday, we start off dry, but then a cold front moves in Saturday afternoon into Saturday night, helping to bring some more of those showers and thunderstorms back into our forecast, some of which could be on the stronger side. We're watching that. That rain moves out pretty early on your Sunday, and behind that system, we're going to be much cooler with highs back down into the 50s come Monday. Once we head into next week, warming right back up into the 70s by next Wednesday. Shannon.
Thanks, Tawana. More now on the expelled Tennessee lawmakers. One of those lawmakers, Justin Jones, was reappointed as an interim representative. The National Metropolitan Council voted 36-0 to reinstate him. Jones, along with another lawmaker, were expelled last week after protesting days after the mass school shooting in Nashville.
Today we send a clear message to Speaker Cameron Sexton that the people will not allow his crimes against democracy to happen without challenge. Yeah.
Representative Gloria Johnson, who is white, also faced expulsion, but she survived the vote, and many, including Johnson, questioned the move to oust 2 black men and then keep her. It's still unclear how the political shakeup will impact Tennessee gun laws. The national emergency for COVID-19 is officially over more than 3 years after it was declared by former President Donald Trump. The White House says President Biden has signed legislation ending the national emergency for COVID-19. The White House had opposed this, but said the president would sign it if it passed. The administration planned to end the national emergency May 11th, which is also when the public health emergency is set to expire. That still remains in effect for 1 month. A White House official says the administration has been winding down pandemic-related authorities over the last few months. 6:25, and coming up this morning on Sunrise, we'll continue our team coverage of the mass shooting in downtown Louisville. How are those doing who are still at U of L Hospital? Plus, we're expecting a live interview with the mayor and LMPD chief. And some witnesses recounting what they saw during this shooting. Their reaction coming up this morning.
With team coverage now, this is Wave News.
The suspect shot at officers. We then returned fire and stopped that threat. The suspect is deceased.
Other officers grabbed him and carried him off as he was unfortunately motionless. Never could have fathomed I would ever see something like this happen.
He was talking about that officer who was shot in the head. 6 people dead, including the gunman after this mass shooting at the Old National Bank in downtown Louisville. 8 others hurt, 2 critical this morning, including that LMPD officer.
I think we all share the fact that, enough. We have got to stop the gun violence.
People in our area and across the country reacting, and many demanding action as the community tries to understand what happened in Louisville. 5 people lost their lives, all employees of the Old National Bank. They were having a meeting yesterday morning. Police say 63-year-old Tommy Elliott, 64-year-old Jim Tutt, 40-year-old Josh Barrick, and 45-year-old Juliana Farmer. They died early Monday morning, and 57-year-old Gina Eckert died from her injuries last night. And now many are wondering why this happened. Wave News reporter Kathleen Nanke is joining us live right now near Old National Bank, speaking with the mayor and chief. Kathleen?
Shannon, why is just one of the many questions that we'll be asking for the next days, weeks, months, and certainly the 2 people next to me will be asking those questions about as much as anybody. Louisville Mayor Craig Greenberg, Interim Chief of LMPD, Jackie Gwynn Beeler-Roel. Thank you so much for being here with me this morning. First, I want to check in. At 4 a.m., we had an update on Officer Nicholas Wilt, that he was still in critical condition, as was that civilian who was also injured. Just want to confirm, is that our latest update?
Well, we did have a fifth death last night from a victim, and so we mourn with the Eckert family this morning, in addition to the other families and the other victims, and continue to pray for everyone else for recovery. We did get some positive news late yesterday about the officer's condition. He still is in critical condition, but he is in great hands with the University of Louisville hospital doctors and nurses, and so we continue to support his recovery.
Chief, as we stand here, we have these boarded up windows of Old National Bank behind us. How does it feel to be right here, right now, knowing what happened less than 24 hours ago?
This tragedy yesterday, the evil deed that this individual played out on yesterday should have never happened. But I'm just truly grateful for the officers that responded on yesterday. Officer Wilt and Officer Galloway, and they responded, and other officers within 3 minutes of receiving that call. Their heroism and just not flinching, but going in and actually engaging that suspect and stopping that threat so additional lives wouldn't have been lost is one that we should never gloss over or forget, that we stood up yesterday and it was proven.
As we look at this response and as you go over every single move that your officers made, when we look back at a shooting like the Uvalde school shooting and what many would call a botched response where they did not enter that building immediately, did you learn from that? How did your officers react differently?
It's unfortunate that we have to learn from any situation such as that. And so for LMPD, I'm just so grateful and committed that we keep giving the best training possible to our officers. And they knew what to do yesterday. They knew their training and they responded accordingly. And so that's what you saw yesterday. You saw that they knew that they needed to protect and serve additional lives, and they did just that yesterday by responding immediately.
And Officer Wilt, I mean, he was a week and a half on the job. It was just a week and a half ago that the chief and I were at his graduation from the academy, celebrating with him and his family and the other graduates of the academy that have joined LMPD. And his brother is in the academy right now. Truly act of heroism by everyone at LMPD, by all the doctors and nurses, not just yesterday, but every day.
As we move forward, on your end, Mayor Greenberg, you have not been quiet on gun violence, and now here is this mass shooting, so much like others that we've seen in our country. What can you do? What can your administration do on the metro level to respond to this and possibly make changes to prevent it happening again?
We will continue to do everything possible that we can at the local level. We will also be advocating for significant change at the state and national level as well. We need help. We need to come together as a community and say enough is enough and do everything possible to reduce the amount of gun violence in our city. The targeted acts of evil violence that we saw yesterday right behind us at Old National and just a few blocks away, whether there are 5 tragic victims, whether there is 1 tragic victim, any act of gun violence is too much. And so our administration will remain laser focused on reducing the amount of gun violence in our city through all means.
Moving from how it happened to why it happened, Chief, how do you begin to look at a motive for something like this when we have acquaintance after acquaintance saying they are shocked that this person did what they did?
That comes with a thorough investigation, looking into every aspect of this individual, and to make sure that we are providing that information to you, the public, because you should know. But taking our time and making sure that we do not leave anything on the table, that we are actually seeking and trying to find out why this occurred. But also, in the meantime, making sure this doesn't occur again. And so the education for the community is going to be really critical and key, that we all need to come together. And again, like the mayor said before, being united. And as we heal through this tragedy, we're going to be able to come out on the other side of this. But again, this should not have happened, and we shouldn't allow it to happen again.
Will we, the public, see body camera footage?
Yes, ma'am. You will see body camera footage.
Any idea when?
Very soon. Very soon.
Before we go,
our prayers continue to be with everyone who has suffered a tragedy in these events yesterday, in any event of violence, and also we just continue to pray for the recovery of those who are injured as a result of yesterday's actions.
We still have a lot to hope for here on the corner of East Main and Preston. Interim Chief Jackie Gwynn-Villarroel, Mayor Craig Greenberg, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Yeah, live here in downtown Louisville, sending things back to you, Shannon. Kathleen Ninke, Wave News.
Kathleen, thank you, and thanks to the mayor, and thank you to the chief, too. So we know right now that 8 people were injured, brought to U of L Hospital, and this morning 2 are still critical, 3 others still being treated, 3 have been released. Olivia Russell is joining us live this morning with an update. Olivia?
Yeah, Shannon, those ambulances were everywhere here in downtown Louisville yesterday. Initially 9 people brought to the hospital, but as we've mentioned, 1 person, Deanna Eckhart, sadly didn't make it. But 8 people injured now and all brought to U of L Hospital. And keep in mind, it's a level 1 trauma center. So as Mayor Greenberg just pointed out, they're in great hands, and they definitely need that right now as 2 people are still fighting for their lives, including Officer Nicholas Wilt. He was shot in the head, went through hours of brain surgery yesterday. We're told he's still in critical condition but stable, and there was another person also listed in critical condition. They haven't given us the extent of that person's injuries, but Governor Andy Beshear said, you know, even though too many people were shot and injured or killed, this could have been a lot worse.
And while I hurt today, and while I will grieve when I'm able, I'm also grateful. I'm grateful for an incredibly quick response from LMPD, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, Louisville Fire and Rescue, Louisville Metro EMS, getting to this scene in 3 minutes. I'm convinced saved other people's lives, and I know saved 2 other of my friends.
Now, another thing to be thankful for here, we're told 3 people were released from the hospital yesterday and 3 other people who are in non-serious condition. And I do want to clarify here because I know there was a little bit of confusion. There were a total of 3 officers injured in this shooting, one of those being Officer Nicholas Wilt, plus another who was grazed by a bullet and 1 more that had an arm injury. But we will continue to keep up with Officer Wilt's condition. Again, right now he's still listed as critical. Reporting live at U of L Hospital, Olivia Russell, Wave News.
Olivia, thanks. And we're learning more about the terrifying moments as officers responded to Old National Bank downtown. It was not yet open at the time, and they were in a morning meeting. One man said he was going to work. He got caught in traffic about 20 minutes after the first gunshots went off. He says that his workplace on Market Street was put onto lockdown, which is when he realized this is something serious. He says he knew several people who work in that bank building, and he was desperate to get to them. He says he loves the city, and his heart is breaking knowing that some sons and daughters, fathers and mothers will not be hugging their loved ones.
2 weeks ago, Nashville, a friend of mine was across the street from the school and, you know, called me and was sharing some of his feelings, and it was just hard to hear that. As a father of 2 young kids at a similar school, it hit home as well. There's no ignoring the fact that every time it happens, you're sad, angry, and confused. And I'd like to hopefully end those feelings eventually soon if I can. It's not a fun place to be.
Mayor Craig Greenberg also recalled his own experience with workplace gun violence. Last year, a gunman entered his campaign office and fired off multiple rounds. 1 bullet actually went through Greenberg's sweater. As a survivor, he reminds people it is important to support those who may not have suffered physical injuries, but emotional and mental pain. 34 years ago, mass shootings were not that common. But it did happen in 1989 when a man walked into the Standard Revere and opened fire in Louisville. 8 people died and 12 were injured in the shooting, and it was one of the deadliest mass shootings in Kentucky's history. We talked to a retired officer with the former Louisville Division of Police who responded to that massacre. He said Monday's mass shooting is similar to other ones, and after 34 years, nothing has changed in terms of arguments for and against gun control. You can find more coverage on the Wave News app of the mass shooting. And also, when you can't be near a TV, we stream live online on our mobile app and all of our streaming channels, and we'll get you updates as they happen through the Wave News app. Meteorologist Tawana Andrew taking us through the next 12 hours.
And over the next 12, we're talking about temperatures climbing into the 70s for your highs, so beautiful amounts of sunshine, nice warm temperatures around, but still plenty of pollen to deal with. I'll let you know when we'll see some rain coming back into the forecast in just a bit.
Well, that mass shooting impacting so many people here in Louisville and beyond. Some ways to try to cope with what's happening next. As the number of mass shootings continue to grow, it's becoming harder to find someone not directly impacted or affected by gun violence. The American Psychiatric Association says a fear of mass shootings has left a large majority of Americans feeling stressed, including a third of adults who say they now avoid going to certain places and events as a result of that. Earlier today, Park Duval Community Health Center CEO Dr. Swanee Jett joined us on Wave News Sunrise, and he says the event can play over and over in someone's head. So if you need help, it's important to get it.
People that survive have survivor's remorse. First of all, immediately you should go get grief counseling. Immediately. And if things do escalate, you still need to go see somebody on a continuous basis because it just doesn't go away.
He says there are other things you can do to also help your mental health: eat the right foods, get enough sleep, and exercise regularly. And sometimes it can be really hard to talk about these tragedies with your children. But doctors say it is a necessary conversation. Health leaders at Norton Children's Hospital say not talking about it can make the event seem even more threatening in your child's mind. They say it's best to start by asking your child what they already know and then listen carefully. Be patient and encourage your child to ask questions.
This is a way to say, I understand this. I will help you get through this. And when you start the conversation, ask them what they've heard. We want to find out what information they're getting, where they're getting it from. Sometimes they get incorrect information. They have friends who have said things, or they've heard things in the media. So start the conversation with what they know.
And doctors say you can also consider sharing your own feelings about what happened. They say it's important to be a role model and share ideas for coping with difficult situations like this mass shooting.
So we're seeing that sunshine coming up over the horizon this morning as we start a brand new day. And while today is going to be quite sunny, we do have a little bit of that rain coming our way. I'll let you know when we're going to see that rain in just 30 seconds. Meteorologist Tawana Andrew here with a check of your forecast, and this is what it looks like right now on our SkyTrack camera looking from New Albany towards downtown Louisville. You can even see the dam off into the distance there. Gorgeous start to the day with crisp, clear skies overhead. And the reason that we have these clear skies, high pressure sitting over us right now, helping to keep our weather quiet for the moment. Now, these clear skies have helped with our temperatures dropping a bit more, so we're now seeing a little bit more of those upper 30s showing up across the region. 36 for those of you in Seymour and Salem, 39 in North Vernon and into Lebanon and E-Town, 38 for those of you in Frankfort, but it's 49 degrees, a little bit of an overachiever there in Louisville right now at the airport. As we look across the Louisville Metro, mainly seeing those upper 30s and low 40s in most spots. So here's what we're expecting over the next 12 hours. Your temperatures are going to climb back into the 70s for your highs, keeping that sunshine around for the entire day. And for tonight, our skies are going to be clear as we fall down into the 40s. So overall, that warming trend will continue for today, into tomorrow, into your Thursday, as well as we see highs near 80 degrees on your Thursday. Then we roll into Friday. This is when we'll have to deal with a few showers and thunderstorms coming back into our forecast. Then we'll have to closely keep an eye on some scattered showers, a couple of thunderstorms rolling in once we get into the second half of your Friday, it looks like for right now. And we'll watch for yet another system approaching once we get into the second half of your Saturday. So Saturday morning looks dry. It looks like we'll warm up just enough to get to near 80 degrees. And that warmth, as the cold front approaches, could be just enough fuel for those thunderstorms moving in with the cold front come Saturday night. So we'll have to closely keep an eye on the strength of some of those storms. But everything quickly sweeps out of the area once we get into your Sunday. And on Sunday, we'll be seeing highs into the upper 50s and the low 60s. Once that front moves through, it's going to be quite dry on most of your Sunday. That rain chance you see there is really for the early morning hours, and it will dry out as we head into next week with temperatures going from the 50s on Monday into the 70s by next Wednesday and Thursday. We'll have a lot more of sunrise after the break.
I'm Olivia Russell, live at U of L Hospital, where 5 people are still being treated for their injuries after yesterday's mass shooting. That includes Officer Nicholas Wilt. We've been on the phone with LMPD overnight looking for updates on his condition. We're told he's still listed as critical. Now, Officer Wilt was shot in the head during a shootout during yesterday's incident. We're told he went through hours of brain surgery, but right now he is stable, but again, still fighting for his life. There's another person also listed in critical condition right now, but officers haven't been able to give us any kind of details on what injuries that person is dealing with. But 3 people were released from the hospital yesterday, and 3 more are still here listed with non-serious injuries. And we'll be talking to LMPD, the mayor, and just about every other official throughout the day looking for updates here at U of L Hospital. But for now, reporting live at U of L Hospital, Olivia Russell, Wave News. Let's send things over to Kathleen Ninke, who is there at the scene of that shooting.
Olivia, you're there where some of those victims are recovering. We certainly hope. And I'm right here where they were shot less than 24 hours ago. Let me get out of the way and show you the windows boarded up at Old National Bank, where at 8:30 a.m. the call came in yesterday morning that there was an active shooter on this scene. By 10:15 a.m., police let us know that aggressor had been neutralized, is the word they used, that they did confirm that police shot and killed that 25-year-old shooter. And so what we're looking ahead to today, I've just spoken half an hour ago with the LMPD interim chief. I've spoken with Mayor Craig Greenberg of the Louisville Metro. And what they tell me is, yes, there's body camera footage. Yes, the public will see it. And yes, that will be soon. We don't know specifically when. And in terms of this investigation, there will be 2 parts. Why did this happen? And how did this happen? Not to mention looking into the response that LMPD gave. Though I'll say both the mayor and the interim chief are lauding their officers for going in, acting quickly, and neutralizing this threat quickly. They believe they saved lives, multiple, plural lives, by acting so quickly. But again, we will see that body camera footage soon. We're not sure exactly when, but we'll bring that to you just as soon as we have it. For now, here live in downtown Louisville at the scene of a mass shooting yesterday morning, Kathleen Ninke, Wave News.
Thanks, Kathleen. We know 5 people were killed. They were all workers at Old National Bank. And GoFundMe is helping people donate to the bank shooting victims and their families. The website has created a hub with legitimate and verified fundraisers. You can find it under the Louisville Bank Shooting How to Help Hub section. GoFundMe's trust and safety team will update that too with more fundraisers as they are verified. And LMPD says a family assistance center has been set up to provide services in the weeks ahead. Louisville Mayor Craig Greenberg said the center would be at the Kentucky International Convention Center at 3rd and Market entrance for anyone involved in the mass shooting. Officials are also dropping off supplies for victims and their families, and the mayor is urging any members to go to this location to get updates. It is 6:55, and you better grab those sunglasses today.
Yeah, because this is what it looks like right now as we start off our Tuesday. What we're seeing across the area, temperatures into the upper 30s and the low 40s across the majority of the region, so you will need that jacket as you're heading out the door. Now, over the next 12 hours, we'll climb into the 70s for your highs, keeping all of that sunshine in the forecast. We'll drop down into the 40s again for tonight. Now, as we look ahead to the next 10 days, we're going to be seeing those temperatures climbing to near 80 on your Thursday. Some rounds of rain as we head into the weekend, but no day this weekend is looking like a washout, and then we'll watch for that warming trend for next week. And by the way, traffic is still quiet across the region this morning.
Isn't that nice? And tax day is coming up
next
soon.
Tuesday, so make sure you do that as well. Maybe do it on one of those days where we have the rain.
Yeah, that's good. All right. Thank you so much. We hope you have a good day. We want to remind you to stay with Wave News for the very latest as we continue to learn more about the mass shooting for yesterday. And we're thinking of all of us in this community. Thank you.